This week I've got Ford V Ferrari, which is based on a true story of when the Ford Motor Company tried to build a race car to take on Ferrari, the top of their game, in the 1960s. And it stars Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby, Christian Bale as Ken Miles, who were both racers, Jon Bernthal as Lee Iacocca, which of the names involved, of the character, the real people involved in this film, Lee Iacocca and Enzo Ferrari are the only real people's names I recognize. Like, I recognize the actors, of course, but I'm like, I don't know who the rest of anybody in this film is. Caitriona Balfe from Outlander plays Molly Miles, Ken Miles' wife. Tracy Letts plays Henry Ford II, I guess another name I would recognize theoretically. Josh Lucas plays a Ford exec, and Noah Jupe from A Quiet Place plays Peter Miles, Christian Bale's son. This film is definitely coming out at awards season. It's definitely clearly, it has Academy Award winners. It's going for it. And it's directed by James Mangold, who directed Logan, which I think is one of the best films, just in general, of the 2010s. And is the best superhero film we have seen to date. So I was like, cool, willing to give this a chance. I think he's a really smart filmmaker. He's had some ups, he's had some downs, but he also has he has a great relationship with his cinematographers, and so he has a beautiful visual style to his films as well. So went in open-minded. I acknowledge that this is not a film for me. I'm not interested in racing. I'm not particularly, gung-ho about this sort of things. I find, racing films are always going to be formulaic just because at the end of the day, there's just going to be a race involved, right? Where it's all building to. And I've yet to see one, personally, that has subverted that, unless you count Fast and the Furious films, which were about drag racing and then suddenly became about saving the world. But anyway, I think one of the things I struggled with is that, this is just another film about the accomplishments of white men. And not even, super accomplishments. I guess they might be amazing accomplishments if you are familiar with the world of whatever the type of racing they were doing. I actually didn't even know it existed. You, drive for 24 hours. I think you have, a relay teams. But, this is so boring and insane. Who enjoys this? So maybe this is, a super exciting setting, stakes, whatever, if you are familiar with this. But therefore, if you are not, it is sort of the filmmakers and the writers and the actors' job to get me excited about this, and I don't think they necessarily accomplished that. I'll acknowledge it's beautifully shot. I think, actually, for me, so I don't like Matt Damon, and I've been very vocal about that before. He is innocuous in this. For Christian Bale, I think this is actually his most approachable performance in the last however many years, and part of that is just intentional role choice in that he has played kind of off-putting characters, like Dick Cheney is not going to be an approachable character. So I give credit where his credit's due. He was definitely watchable in this. I think the movie's 2.5 hours and it's just too long for a movie about racing fast. I think you could have cut about 30 minutes from this film and it would have attracted a lot more people. There's just sort of a self-indulgence when it came to the racing sequences. So I'm not really the audience member for this film, right? Because I don't really care about an extended shot of shining a car body or whatever. But I think I could have been a convert to the story in general had they tightened it up and not sort of wasted this time on these extraneous shots. I will also say, unfortunately, this film absolutely crashes and burns when it comes to the Bechdel test. In fact, I can only recall 2 female characters in it, one of them being a translator who only serves the purpose to say the words a man says in different languages, and Caitriona Balfe's character, I cannot pronounce her name. Goodness, I apologize, but I can't pronounce it, but and she plays Ken Miles' wife, and she is the perfect, loving, doting, supportive wife who doesn't mind that her husband abandons her and her young child to go race and work on motor cars for a while. It's so far-fetched, and I just feel again, it's 2019, stop making films that fail the Bechdel test. It's really not that hard to add a scene, even if it is in a scene in a movie that is a male-centric, movie about the accomplishments, the middling accomplishments, and forgettable ones, because we haven't heard about them till now, of white men, which is not a film we need, by the way. In that sense, this movie really irks me, in that we don't need these stories, right? These stories are told over and over. We need different types of stories being told. But since this is the movie we're talking about, I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. It's fine. I don't think, honestly, in the annals of history, it's going to go down as a great film. It's a fine film. I think it's probably one of the better ones coming out this weekend. But, judging by the current slate of things out, you probably end up at it. But I didn't connect with it, and I could have. That's the thing, right? It wasn't so far away from my taste that I couldn't have connected to it, but I don't think it went out of its way to try and get people who are outside of the easy target zone. So 3.5 out of 5.